Matt, you're really moving around terminology very wildly here, and
so are you, because that's the tactics you play in your game, and you've done it the entire time. You've jumped from one subject to the next. You speak so fast, and I know how you work. So how does it feel to have it in your face?
Oh, well, I mean.
Because I'm sick and tired of the shit that you have put against my community, especially Black trans women, because you constantly disregard all of our needs and then use us politically as a pawn when we're 1% of the population. Why not focus on the economy itself? All of us are struggling, and you want to focus on trans people. You want to focus on a Black woman when this is clearly a glass cliff situation. America's falling apart, and
Jubilee posted a video featuring Ben Shapiro, the one and only Ben Shapiro, and 25 Kamala Harris supporters. And one of the claims that he made was that Kamala Harris' stance on abortion, Kamala Harris' extreme stance on abortion, cannot be defended morally. Let's get right into it.
Hey, good to meet you. Okay, so I just want to clarify the claim because, okay, so the claim that I'm making about Kamala Harris, let's first say like what I believe her position to be. Okay, so she has not stated any abortion law that she would not veto. Right, so the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act, for example, or late-term abortion bans, she would presumably veto that as President of the United States. That's the position that I'm taking in this particular prompt. Okay, so that is the position that I find morally indefensible. Okay, so again, I'm a very, very pro-life person, but I can see at least the sort of nuanced arguments that some people on the left try to make about abortion, even if I disagree with those arguments. The argument that she's making, which is effectively abortion until birth should be in no way regulated, I find that to be morally indefensible.
My understanding right now is that a majority of Democrats would not support abortion through birth. My understanding is the more popular position, I don't think any state lets you go through birth. Maybe I'm off on that. Maybe there's a couple.
California and New York, actually.
Okay, understood. But yeah, I think the key claim is basically, I think most Democrats would want abortion within the first few weeks prior to the development of my personal moral starting point of life, is that the mind is the seat of consciousness, the brain is is where your self is. If you replace your heart, you have a robo heart, you're chilling. If you replace your brain, you're a different person, you're dead. And I think that when that brain first starts to develop, that's sort of where I see the beginning of life and where the fetus gets their first moral consideration. Would you agree that abortion before that point is tolerable?
No, I don't agree with that, but again, quick question, just as far as defining the positions.
Yeah.
So would you agree that late-term abortion is indefensible?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's not my position. I would not support that.
So you actually agree with me on the prompt. Okay, so now we get into the broader abortion conversation. That's fine. I mean,
no worries.
That's totally cool. So yes, no.
Do you feel that a majority of Democrats support through the moment before birth?
A majority of Democrats have not supported any abortion legislation on the federal level in my entire lifetime, nor do I suppose that they will. So if there were to be a consensus 15-week abortion ban, for example, which is about the status in Europe, I would assume that virtually all Democrats would vote against that 15-week abortion ban. So I may agree with your more moderate position, or at least use that as a starting point. That is certainly not where the Democratic Party historically has been, nor is it where the Democratic Party is right now.
Awesome, understood. And just to understand where you begin your moral consideration for a fetus.
Where I consider
Yeah.
At conception. Right, so I believe in life, that life begins at conception. You now have a human being with potential, not a potential human being. And then the question is exactly what the moral value of that human being is. Once you acknowledge that there is, in fact, a countervailing interest to, for example, a woman's quote-unquote right to choose, once you acknowledge there's an independent interest.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time, Ben.
You made it. You're good. You can relax.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Hello. Nice to meet you. Oh wow, you look better in person. Okay, so
that's very sweet of you. I don't often get.
She starts with an insult. Already, I know it's going to be a very difficult one.
Abortion would be the forcible termination of an unborn human life.
Yes, but why do you hold that definition? Would you not assume something like a C-section would be considered an abortion?
No, because the baby is born alive. So how would that be an abortion?
What does the definition of abortion have to include the death of a fetus?
Because that's literally the definition of abortion.
It literally isn't, though. Where are you getting this definition?
Wait a minute. I mean, when you abort a pregnancy, the child is automatically terminated. I mean, isn't that what happens? Abortion ends the life of a child, of an unborn child. All right, let's keep going.
From?
Where are you getting your definition from?
Let's go to like what, like, do you like in like Mayo Clinic, like any fucking like hospital you've ever gone to before?
A C-section ends with the birth of the child.
Right, but
I know.
But abortion,
both I and all three of my siblings were born via
generally.
C-section.
Yeah, I understand this.
I'm here. I'm talking to you.
I know, baby.
Thus I was not aborted.
I understand this, but like yes, but like no. Well, yes, but like no. But no, you could simply say that abortion is simply the ending of a pregnancy, right? So the ending of a pregnancy outside of the natural birth of a fetus. So I don't see that. I don't see why you would say that like it would have to end in the death of a fetus, which is why I'm pro-abortion all 9 months, right? Because say if a woman is not able to pass a fetus in the natural way, we could have these other abortion processes that would say like, okay, like she needs some type of induction that doesn't include the actual natural expulsion of a fetus. But it doesn't always end in the death of a fetus. So I don't see how you could say that Kamala Harris' stance is immoral in this sense.
I just don't understand how you're removing the death of the fetus from the equation about abortion. That's literally the entire moral issue. You and I would not even be arguing if we were talking about C-sections or about natural birth.
But it seems like at its core, though, we disagree on what the inherent definition of abortion is.
You could leave away. We could very easily solve this. Let's just not talk about the word abortion. Let's talk about the forcible termination of a baby.
Okay. So then, what do you value in the fetus then?
The life of the fetus.
Okay. So then, when is this? You said it begins at conception.
Yes.
And why is that?
Because that is literally the biological definition of when an independent life begins.
Yes, but like, why does it have moral value?
It has moral value because that's literally the biological definition of when a human life begins.
Right, but like, why does that have moral value though?
Okay, why?
Let me answer that question. I believe that it has moral value because it is made in the image of God. It is a life. That's my answer. So let's keep going.
Why does any life have moral value?
I would value sentience.
But why?
Right, because
based on what?
This is simply what we value, like you and I value. Like, is it okay to like unplug like a brain dead patient, for example?
I mean, the question is whether it's okay to unplug a brain dead patient. Actually, quite a controversial one in sort of religious circles.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as why, I'm just wondering if somebody's in a coma and you know they're going to wake up. Do you have the right to unplug them?
Well, coma's not brain dead though. We know that there's future sentience there. Like it would be like a matter of like a conjunct of like past, future. Like past, present, or future sentience. But like a person in a coma has.
I agree. And guess what? Fetuses also have guaranteed future sentience.
Well, no, because you're only valuing one half of the conjunct. That's not right. So it would be past, present, or future.
Now you're changing the topic. I mean, we started with what's the value of the fetus.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Whoa! You know what? Just for, honest to God, just for that, I forfeit. That's like some serious efforting right there. Well done.
I'll take
really well
it.
done.
Thank you. Yeah, so on the topic of abortion, I think we have a big focus on the moral aspects of abortion, but I do think we should talk about the legal aspects of life, because when a baby is born, two things happen: birth certificate, social security card. When there are when it's like cells in the body, you don't get the birth certificate. You don't get a social security card because it's not alive, it's not born yet. Therefore, when it comes to like the moral repercussions of having abortion, I feel like that's very different than legally, because if a cluster of cells in a woman was equivalent to a baby, I should be able to have tax deductions on that kid. I should be able to have child care from the government. I should be able to have child support from the father. But since like the clusters of cells is in fact not a baby, I feel like morally you can say whatever, but legally a clusters of cells is not like
so sort
alive.
of hiding behind the legal positivist position, I think, to shield against the morality here is a problem, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So when it comes to, first of all, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm perfectly happy to have people pay paternity for children that are currently in utero. Okay. Like that's fine with me. In fact, I think that'd be quite good. I think it would incentivize fathers to stay with the mothers and actually be more responsible. But if we're talking about legal status,
immediately your argument just falls apart, because like he said, there are people who do not have have a social security card, who can pay taxes. Do we just kill them? Your whole argument just falls apart, literally.
There are plenty of people in the United States, for example, who don't have legal status right now, who don't have a social security card, for example, in the United States. Obviously, we can't kill them. They're legal immigrants. We shouldn't murder them. There are lots of people in the legal status does not, in fact, equate to moral status in any sense of the term. I mean, that it's true, for example, that children can't vote and don't actually have control over any of their decision making. Right? I have 4 kids of my own, and I control their decision making because they're very small. Okay, that doesn't mean that I get to kill them. So the idea of legal status, thus being the basis of a moral status, is putting the cart before the horse. The truth is that it's because things have a moral status that we give them a legal status, and obviously you can see that state by state, right? For example, even in the state of California, they had something called Lacey's Law for a while. I think it's still applicable, where if somebody killed a pregnant woman, that could be treated as a double homicide in criminal law. Okay, that sort of stuff applies all over the United States. So using the legal as a substitute to sort of evade the moral question ignores the fact that people make law in the states based on what their moral perception of the issue is. The law follows the moral perception, not the other way around.
Yes, I agree, but I think there is a problem with the moral perception, especially when you...
Now you're talking. So I guess we're going back to morality, morality being subjective, morality being objective, because if you believe that, one group of people might think that there's nothing wrong with killing a child in a womb, and one group of people might think that it's actually wrong, then you have this whole moral relative situation. But I know, and you know, that killing an innocent child is wrong, objectively speaking. So it comes down to, like you said, morality. And I believe that morality can be objective in certain situations, and laws should be built around the objectivity of morality. Let's keep going.
Consider that morality varies all across America. It's not uniform anywhere. And that's a big problem, especially when you see in the South when they're having like 6-week abortion bans, which is detrimental to women's health. Because as we see in Georgia right now, there were 2 women who were pregnant who went to a hospital, get health care, and they were denied that care because there was confusion surrounding abortion laws. That's why I focus more so on the legality aspect of it, because that's something that's uniform. That's something that could be known.
It isn't uniform though, right? I mean, it does vary state to state. I mean, as you yourself just acknowledged.
True, yes.
So, when it comes to sort of we can get into the specifics of those particular Georgia cases. One of them particularly has been relatively badly covered. It's about a woman who took basically both doses of the abortion medication. She took it without the supervision of a doctor. She then experienced essentially sepsis, and she went to the hospital late. And then, under no interpretation, by this point, she had twins. Both of the fetuses were unfortunately dead by this point. So there actually was no legal problem with performing a DNC at that time, and the hospital misinterpreted the law. But without getting into more details about that particular case, the real question when it comes to abortion was, and always will be how we weigh 2 separate considerations. One is the moral value of the life of the fetus, and the second is the woman's right to choose. The problem is that these are sort of mutually exclusive, meaning that I don't have a right to choose about your life, right? About whether I get to kill you or not, or about the children that I have who are already born. And so the right to choose is obviated by the acknowledgement of a moral status on the part of the child, and vice versa. Right? If you're willing to say that the child has no moral status whatever, then there really is no problem with abortion. The big moral problem I have with the sort of Kamala Harris position and the position that I have. Sorry.
I got the judges over here.
All right.
Hey, nice to meet you, Ben.
I'll see you again later, dude. All right. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Hey,
to meet
Cam. Hey, appreciate you being here and having an open discussion.
Yeah, you bet. It's fun.
Let's say that just hypothetically, right? Baby's born. Mama can't feed the baby. She's not breastfeeding. Baby dies. Morally, do you feel like that would be better than if the baby would have just been like aborted before it was born?
I mean, I'm not sure that there's any. I mean, I think that it's significantly worse to purposefully kill a child rather than accidentally or through circumstances kill a child.
Not accidentally, right? She cannot.
She didn't purposefully kill the child.
She can't afford it, right?
I mean,
she can't afford to have the baby, and so you're saying that Kamala Harris is extreme, but your stance is that women are being forced to have children, even if they decide that for whatever reason. I don't care. I don't care.
Why
but
don't
for whatever
care? Why
reason,
don't you care? Because you give me a very specific example.
Because it's not between me. Because it's not. It is not between me.
Right, but
it is between that mom, her health, her relationship with whoever she believes in. It is not on me.
Here's sort of the problem. You're extrapolating from a very emotionally laden example to everything. And I'm wondering how you're doing that. So you give me a case in which you have a woman who, for whatever reason, literally cannot feed her child. For some reason, adoption's not available. There are no food stamps. There's literally nothing. She's in a desert by herself, and the baby's going to die. Is that abortion equivalent to a woman who decides to, because she doesn't want the baby for economic reasons or because it's going to crimp her lifestyle, like whatever? You said you don't care about the reason at all. That's your words, not mine. So she's 15 weeks pregnant. She wants to kill it. That's the same? Why?
You're asking me why it's the same. I'm asking you why isn't it the same? Why is a baby who
I think it's pretty self-evidently the same,
who
not the same.
can't be born say that if she doesn't want to, if she says that I can't economically afford this child, that's like somebody going and saying, I can't economically afford this car, and the car salesperson still taking them on a test drive. Like, what's the point if they've already told you that they are not going to be able to economically afford it unless you give them, like you said, okay, what about abortion? Well, there's how many people in foster care that aren't being adopted right now today? All right,
should we kill them or what?
I'm not saying we should kill them. I'm just saying that should we wait at least until
Would have been better
all
if they were
those
dead?
people. You tell me.
No, you tell me. You're the one who's
If
suggesting
those
there's
people-
that's a matter of moral apathy, whether those kids were born or not. I don't think so.
So if kids are in foster care and not being treated well, they're being abused. They're not being fed.
That is a
they're
horrific problem, yes.
They're being locked. The fridge is being locked, and they're told they can't go get it because there are
horrible.
people who are only in it because they're getting a check. You're saying that is morally
Superior to killing them? Yes.
before they're born. So
Yes.
you're saying that torturing a human being who's born, like they're a real life
No, I'm
human
not the one
today.
in favor of torture. You're the one in favor of unborn people
If
being
you
killed.
can't, if the only way you survive is food and water, and you rely on someone else to provide that to you, and they're not providing it to you, what would you call that?
I'm confused by.
I know you are, because your
but
argument contradicts itself.
No, it really, really doesn't. I mean, the argument that you're making is that a born child deprived of food and water never should have been born.
No.
I don't see why that follows.
That's not my argument. My argument.
Thanks a lot. Well, okay, we're gonna take this chair. Look at that.
Hey, Ben.
Like a bro, my friend. All right.
How's it going?
Let's break open
first
beer or
question,
something.
can men get pregnant?
Men cannot get pregnant.
Okay, awesome.
Already from the questioning, can really tell how crazy this particular conversation is going to go. Like once you ask, can men get pregnant, you already know that, hey, it's about to go down. Let's keep going.
So,
Definitionally.
okay. Do men experience SA? Sexual assault?
Sure.
Got it. What about the existence of trans men?
What about the existence? Do you mean women who believe that they are men? What are we talking about here? Women experiencing gender dysphoria?
So my other question is, do you benefit from white supremacy in any way, shape, or form?
I'm going to need more specifics on what you mean by white
Well, here,
supremacy.
let me give it to you, Ben.
Sure, please.
So I'm a transgender man.
Okay.
I've experienced SA.
Okay.
And abortion rights affect me directly. So if we're talking about the American dream that you live, why don't I have access to that? Because there's no legislation, in the history of America, that legislates a man's body. So why does mine have to be legislated? I've got a vagina.
I'm not interested in what your genitalia are.
Clearly you are. I mean, it's all over everything you make, buddy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it to you, but
I think you can read on my
kind of an
face that I
obsession
radically
you
am
guys
not.
have.
I think you can read on my face that I radically am not. When we're talking about abortion,
No, I don't. I mean, you can present it here, but in most of the content that you have, you attack my community constantly. And you don't even realize guys like me exist who actually share a lot of similarities to you and everything, because I'm a married man of 20 years.
I
got a wife.
recognize that you exist. I disagree with your claim that you
so
are
if
a
I
male.
was sexually assaulted, right, and I didn't have access to that abortion care, do you believe that I should have carried that child to term because
What does
I
this
was
have to-
sexually assaulted?
I mean,
No, I just want to make sure that that's what you believe. Because as a transgender man, I have seen your side of the entire political debate, never ever having the conversation of what an American freedom is. Because why am I not allowed to live my American freedom as a man? You know, I mean, you get your choice as a man to live and free and all that.
You're really moving around terminology very wildly here.
And so are you, because that's the tactics you play in your game. And you've done it the entire time. You've jumped from one subject to the next. You speak so fast, and I know how you work. So how does it feel to have it in your face?
Oh, well, I mean...
Because I'm sick and tired of the shit that you have put against my community, especially black trans women, because you constantly disregard all of our needs and then use us politically as a pawn when we're 1% of the population. Why not focus on the economy itself? All of us are struggling, and you want to focus on trans people. You want to focus on a black woman when this is clearly a glass cliff situation. America's falling apart, and let's give it a woman right when it's all falling apart, when we'd had, 50 men run it and it looks like shit? Look at where we're at. Truly, where do you think that we're heading? I mean, it's so funny to watch white supremacy just fall apart the way that it is, and you ride so hard. Because guess what? In other countries around the world, women are not having children. And why is it? Because of the patriarchy and all the violence that men perpetuate, and all of this idea that abortion is somehow going to solve it all by forcing women to have abortion instead of focusing on the real problems that we're facing in our society. We're just going to completely ignore that, and we're just going to go, you know what? The line item is, let's make women have babies so that we can continue this capitalistic society that we have. Why are we doing that? What? I mean, why? Because you want to push white supremacy and because you want to make your check? It does great for you. Meanwhile, people like me have to live with the consequences of all of your rhetoric that you put on a daily basis, and including my entire community and the intersectionalities of Black women, men that experience SA, trans people, everyone that comes in. And I'm so sick of the idea that you can come in with this bravado, that you're this big guy that knows things because you can talk fast, you have statistics. But really, what does it really matter at the end of the day if you are harming the entire American? This guy's been accused of rape, Trump, in like court documents, and you're backing the guy. Like, you have children. How could you do that to your own? Don't you have a daughter? Like, what is wrong with you, dude? I've never seen such a party just completely like the American idea, what we believe in as a country, is not what you're perpetuating. It's diversity. It's giving you tired, hungry, and poor.
Emotional
The
abuse.
Google phone you have in your pocket is because of all of the diversity we've had.
Pause.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. So let's say that I'm voted out by my friends here, and I stand up and immediately collapse onto the ground. A paramedics rush in, and through some magical means, they determine that the only person who can save my life is you. You can do that by giving me a transplant. Can you be forced to give me a transplant?
I cannot.
Why?
Because I do not have a parental relationship with you, and thus I do not owe you a duty of care in the same way that I would if, say, you were my son.
Can a
If my
parent be
son-
forced to give a kid a transplant?
Yes, a parent can be forced to give a kid an enormous number of resources, or should be.
Can you be forced to give me blood?
No.
Do you believe that the average person should be able to be forced by the government to do something with their body?
It depends what, because that
Why
that
can
is
you
the
not be
nature of
forced
law.
to give me? Why can you not be forced to give me an organ?
Because I do not owe you a duty of care sufficient to remove an organ
Because
from
you
me.
cannot be forced to use your body to sustain my own, and that is the crux of
Because
the
I do not
abortion
owe you a
argument.
duty to
Because
care.
you cannot be forced to use your body to sustain my own, and that is the crux of the abortion argument. And the problem is, and it's very morally
ignoring the
inconsistent.
parental
no,
relationship.
because there's a point here. There's a very morally inconsistent part to your argument right here. If you do not believe that you should be forced to sustain my body using your own, then you should also not believe that a woman should be forced to sustain a child that they do not want to carry in utero. Is the same basic argument.
Well-
it doesn't matter how you get there. Let's say that you crash into me on the way out of here.
Well, no, it's
if you
actually-
hit
it's not
into
the-
me.
it's actually
Yes,
not
it
the
is.
same
But it is. If you say
It
that,
isn't,
let's
though.
say that you run into me
Okay.
on the way out of here. If you crash into me, it doesn't matter that that is the reason why I am in that state. You cannot be forced to give me blood. You cannot be forced to give me an organ. You
Okay,
cannot be
that's not
forced to
actually
use your body
how
to
abortion
sustain my
works.
own.
An abortion includes a pre-existing physical connection between the two bodies. So a better example would be the so-called dead violinist example or dying violinist example that was put forward by a philosopher. I can't remember her name. The basic idea there is that you wake up in a room and I'm connected to you, right? And you have some sort of health condition, I'm connected to you, and I'm giving you a blood transfusion. And if I remove that, you'll die. Do I have a duty not to remove it? I think there's actually a fairly decent case that I actually do have a duty.
No, you do
to
not.
remove it.
You do not have
Well,
a duty to be
you can't-
forced to. No,
why are you
because
defining my
do-
moral position?
You do not have a duty
My
to
moral
sustain
position is
someone
not
else's
yours,
body
clearly.
using your own. Thank you.
It's been tough to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 5'2".
You made it.
I'm the only one in the room shorter than you. Okay, so honestly, my understanding of Kamala's plan is a return to Roe v. Wade, but in the legislative level. That seems to be the majority opinion by the American people. They were not for the removal, right? Trump is not really for an abortion ban, right?
I mean,
In
he
his
himself has said
personal
he is
level.
not.
Okay, yeah, but unfortunately, the way he governs, he puts those three folks in the Supreme Court. They do it. His vice presidential pick really wants to do it. He's claiming now that everybody wants it to the states. Nobody wanted it. No, that was not the demand. I think people are just kind of interested in protecting their freedoms. It's a bigger discussion about freedom. And I think Kamala Harris is going to be the presidential pick to protect the freedoms.
Okay, so again, I think that we have to define what we think Kamala Harris's position is. I think that it goes well beyond simply restoring Roe versus Wade, for example, which is an extremely flawed legal decision, a wide variety of legal scholars ranging from right to left. Ruth Bader Ginsburg used to point out that that was a very flawed legal
we can't
decision.
pretend that like this is like a bipartisan thing. Roe v. Wade was a problem. The bipartisan thing
No,
was
you might like
having
the
Roe v. Wade.
you might like the results. You might like the results of Roe
Well,
versus
I
Wade.
don't
The
have
actual
much-
legal decision is a bad legal decision.
I think that
That's the end of this claim.
I'm glad you finally made it, though.
hopefully I can come.
If there is no God, yes. If there is no God, then abortion cannot be morally defended because, I mean, at the end of the day, all you have is just matter and energy. So any moral value that you place to matter and energy becomes subjective. One group might say, baby in the womb, I think it's valuable. Another group might say, baby in the womb, I don't think it's valuable. You can abort the baby in the womb. It becomes subjective because we have reduced life to matter and energy if there is no God. But if there's a God, I'm convinced that you can morally fight against abortion, because now what we're saying is that every human being was created in the image of God, and every life is valuable. No matter where you are, inside the womb, outside the womb, you are valuable because God says you are, because you are created in the image of God. So just to break down the argument, I think it just comes down to two things. Is life valuable or not? Or is God real or not? Remember to subscribe to my channel. Stay blessed.